Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be looking at the California housing market, seeing what's going on with active listings, median home value, comparing other areas in the state, and kind of giving a summary as to what's going on here, as potentially there is a shift around the corner. And I want to give my outlook for the overall state and kind of give my opinion on potentially how certain areas will react, whether it's going to shift to a buyer's market or maintain this sort of neutral slash seller's market in a lot of the state. If you're new here, my name is Ian Phillips. I'm a realtor in Southern California, and I love talking about the housing market, uploading videos daily, if not weekly, diving into the data, letting you know what's going on in certain areas. So if you're interested, subscribe for more, and let's get straight into the video. So looking at the median home value, you can see prices have kind of just been bouncing around in the overall state for the last few years, sort of hovering between $750, $690, going up to almost $800,000 in June of last year. And we're kind of in this trend again where prices have been going up since the start of 2025. You can see in January, the median home value was $700,000, and now we're almost at $770,000. Now this data does change depending on where you're looking at it. Zillow, for example, is saying home values are almost at an all-time high and have been trending up for the last couple of years. And other areas, National Association of Realtors is saying the median home value is $900,000, but some areas pull the average, some areas pull the median. And median is a much better way of examining what exactly house prices are doing in the area, because if you have the average of 1 month, if you have a lot of luxury homes selling in 1 month, it completely distorts what's going on in the overall market because it shows prices skyrocketing in 1 month, and you have another month where no luxury homes sell and prices do the opposite. So median is a much better way of examining what's going on in the housing market. And in the overall country, prices did peak in 2022. And sort of similar for California as a whole. You can see prices got to $775,000 in June of 2022 when the overall market peaked and had a pretty decent correction, 10%, maybe almost 15% in some areas, and then kind of just was bouncing around between those levels. Now, my opinion, in the rest of 2025 and into 2026, if we get lower mortgage rates, that is going to have a large influx of home buyers stepping into the market, because I know firsthand from talking with a lot of buyers that people are waiting for sub 6% mortgage rates to jump back in. And we saw when mortgage rates dropped from 7% to like 6.2% in a matter of a week, loan applications skyrocketed because of that. So if we get sub 6%, almost 5.5% mortgage rates in the first half of 2026, I think you're going to see a whole new wave of buyer demand getting into the market. Now, this will likely impact the overall country as well, but I want to take a look at housing inventory, because in California, it's not quite the same as the other states. Texas and Florida, for example. By the way, watch my video on the Texas housing market because it is probably about to collapse. But Texas and Florida inventory has been skyrocketing. It's higher than it was in 2019 when we had more of a normal market. But California is a different story. This is the active listings, and as you can see, there are roughly 65,000 homes on the market, up from a low of 22,000 available listings when inventory was essentially non-existent. But if you look back to 2019, 2018, there were over 80,000 homes available for sale. Even back in 2016, there were over 80,000 homes on the market on average. And we aren't at those levels yet. So inventory would have to increase roughly by 20,000 available homes for sale in the entire state of California just to get back to a normal market. So we have quite a ways to go before we get rid of this idea of home values appreciating in California. And as it stands, even if we do get back to 80,000 homes available for sale, that's just going to be a neutral market, normal market, where home values appreciate 2 to 3% every single year, as real estate has always done in the past. But places like Florida and Texas, where inventory is way higher than it was back over here, you're probably going to see prices declining, and it's already happening in a lot of areas. But in California, we're still seeing significantly more buyer demand relative to a lot of the other states. Now that brings me to specific areas, because real estate for the next 2-3 years, in my opinion, is going to be very, very location dependent. And some counties, some cities are significantly outperforming others in California. So if you look at specific areas, Orange County, for example, where I live, the median home value relative to the entire state has been outperforming to a huge percentage. So prices peaked in 2022 in Orange County in California around $1,073,000 for Orange County, and in California around $790,000. And you can see both areas had a decent correction, but look at where prices are now in Orange County, over $1.2 million, while California is still around $795,000. So areas that are having significantly more demand, a more desirable place to live, prices are skyrocketing, and you're seeing buyers stepping into the market. And then if we look at Los Angeles, which is obviously a bigger market, we'll look at the city that had a huge boom leading up to 2022. Prices are actually down since the peak. In LA, prices peaked around $1,033,000, and now the median home value is $978,000. So as Orange County has appreciated 15% since the peak, even 20% actually since the peak in 2022, prices are down in LA. So it's very, very location dependent, and that is what I want to stress to anyone considering a purchase in California. Obviously, you need to love the area, you need to want to live in that place, but as far as future growth when it comes to what prices are going to do, it's so location dependent. I'm personally working with a couple people that want to sell in LA and move to Orange County because of the situation that is going on over there. They don't like how things have changed in their specific area, and for them personally, it makes more sense to move to Orange County. But obviously, every single situation is different. If we look at San Diego, prices topped around $1,015,000 in 2022, and 3 years later, they're around the same price, $1,029,000. So while it's outperforming LA, it has significantly underperformed Orange County. And that is what I want to stress to a lot of people. Let's look at San Francisco, another major area in California. What have prices done here? San Francisco prices peaked in 2022 around $1.6 million. And they've dropped to $1.35 million. So prices are down $250,000 in San Francisco since 2022, all while other areas are actually up in that same period of time. So people need to understand that the housing market moving forward for the next 2 to 3 years and the last 2 to 3 years have just been so location dependent, even more so than real estate typically is. But that's kind of it for the update on California as a whole. Understand that some areas are significantly outperforming others. As far as the outlook for the entire state, in my opinion, I think it's just going to be a neutral market moving forward until we get lower mortgage rates. Now, barring any significant rise in the unemployment rate, I think it's just going to be neutral. However, if we get unemployment rates skyrocketing at the same time that mortgage rates are declining, then you're probably going to have more homes hitting the market than you are buyers stepping into the market. Remember, jobs are a huge factor when it comes to the housing market as a whole. If people are losing their jobs, they can't afford to keep their house, can't afford to make those mortgage payments, they're going to be listing their home and moving into rentals. So all of this is sort of we'll have to wait and see what happens. But my assumption is California is going to outperform most of the country and continue to do so in the future. And even those specific areas in the state are going to outperform a lot of the entire state. Places like Orange County has been outperforming basically everywhere else in the state. But let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you're looking for an agent in the area, reach out. I'd love to chat, go over a game plan, see what makes the most sense for you and your situation, whether you're buying or selling. And subscribe for more. I'll see you next time.